Night shift workers of Reddit, what's the creepiest thing that's ever happened during your shift? I was working a 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. overnight shift, inventory management. Stalkers come in about 2 a.m. to unload the grocery truck, so we have to move out of their way. One dude came up to me, he happened to be my neighbor, and started a conversation. I'm going along with it, as one does. Until I noticed that his eyes were really red and glazed over and he wouldn't move his eyes away from my chest. Of course that made me feel awkward, so I crossed my arms over myself. He noticed that, and remembered that he had a job to do. So he went to unload the truck. Keep in mind, that during our seemingly friendly conversation, he asked me, "What time do you go to lunch?" My reply, "Same time as you do. We work the same shift." He asks, "What are you doing?" So I answer him with, "Going home and eating." Anyway, an hour flew by and my boyfriend picked me up for lunch and we drove home. Coming into our driveway, I saw the dude from work, standing expectantly on his porch. I was hesitant to get out of the car. So I got out, grabbed my boyfriend's hand, and we made our way to our door. Before we got inside, the dude started throwing a fit, flailing his arms and legs around, stomping like a child, all of that. He kicked the door open, kicked a bunch of shit over that was by his door, boxes or something, and went inside, where we heard him screaming at his wife and kids about something. I called the cops and they dragged him out. Turns out he was drunk. No clue what his plans were, but he did know that I usually walked home alone. The same path he takes. I was a janitor at a local gym. I was mopping the floors and had my back to the door listening to my iPod. I turned around, and there was a man dressed in a super sketchy dollar store UPS costume. He had his face pressed to the glass, smiling and tapping on the window with one finger. Scared the shit out of me. He said to let him in to deliver a package. Mind you, it's 1:30 a.m. I said fuck that and called the cops. They found him trying to break into a house down the road. I worked night audit at this semi-swanky hotel next to the airport. One night I get a call from a lady in 204. She says there was arguing, loud banging and crying coming out of 206. Check the computer, no one is checked into that room due to maintenance issues. I called my supervisor to see what to do, and she tells me to call on-site security and follow them up with a key. I really didn't want to, but I decided to be the bigger man and go up anyways. As we get off the elevator we can hear the crying, it's loud. My heart starts racing as we near the door, so I hand the key to the security guard. The next 5 minutes seem to happen in slow motion. He opens the door and immediately flicks on the light. Keep in mind 206, we're on the second floor, only door in was by me, and this at like 3 a.m. and there was no one around. As we enter the room the shower is on, steam is coming from under the door. There is only one lamp on in the room, it's super cold, and there is a lady in a red lacy bra, black panties, with super red hair curled up crying in the bed. She was facing away from us. As Frank approached her he asked if everything was okay. She sort of stopped crying and rolled over. When she did a wave of horror came over me. She was super pale, covered in blood and was just staring behind us. That's when we realized the shower had stopped and the door was open. There was a man about 6 feet 5 inches standing in the doorway. As we turned around, cops tased him and arrested him. Turns out he was a rapist who hides in hotel rooms, kidnaps women who stay there, and cuts them open. To this day I will never go to a hotel again. Working night shift at a care home, only 2 people work at night. We get everyone to bed and tidy up, then sit down to watch TV and answer if any of the residents ring the bell. About 2 in the morning, the doorbell rings. This is weird as the home is in the countryside, about 10 miles from the nearest village. We go to investigate, find a man at the front door. He asks if he can use the phone as his car's broken down. He isn't allowed in, but we offer to phone a tow truck for him. He agrees. We go get the phone and when we come back to the door he's gone. Weird, but we think maybe he's just gone back to his car or something. We go back to sit down but can see down the corridor that the man is now inside, standing in the TV room. He doesn't see us so we run and hide. We still have the phone so call the cops, but they take a while to get to us. About 15 minutes later the cops show up. We let them in and they search the place and calm us down. The man isn't found anywhere, and we call management to send some more staff out to stay with us during the night. Manager arrives, police leave. We're back watching TV and chatting, a bit calmer now. Then we hear the front door open then close. Go to investigate, start calling the cops again. Look out the window to see the man running away down the driveway. He'd been in the home the entire time the cops were there. No idea what he wanted, very glad I don't work there anymore. Night shifts are creepy enough in a care home even without intruders. I was working super late one night at a ski resort. It was about 11 o'clock and my shift ended at 12. I was working at the top, and the wind had been really strong that day and made some of the big floodlights on the hill go out. Anyways, I'm sitting up there in the lift shed, freezing my ass off, haven't used the bathroom once in the entire 7 hours I've been on the job. Only had the same 6 people come up the lifts in the past hour. Then the lift stopped. Tried to dial down but it wasn't working. Tried to restart the lift automatically. Wasn't working. Then the wind started to pick up and was rattling the windows. That's when I saw it. This dark silhouette walking up the hill in one of the floodlights. I tried my hand radio to see if it was someone coming up to relieve me or something, but oddly it wasn't working. I freaked out, so I got really paranoid and started gathering evidence and shit to prove that weird stuff was going on. I took a picture of the volume, power and channel knobs of the radio. Took a video of me restarting stuff in the lift shed, and snapped pictures of the figure walking up, which just looked like a shadow, thanks to the mini blizzard and shitty camera. Then the shadow got to the end of the floodlight's path and I lost sight of it for 7 minutes. During which I got only a single message. Hey McGee, do you see that person walking up the hill? Yeah, I did, but I can't see them anymore. What's wrong with the lift? No answer after that. Then the shadow hits the third to last light from the top shack. This one is very small, and only about 70 feet from the shack. I could barely see the person, but they certainly didn't work here, and weren't wearing any ski gear. Then, like God commanded it himself, the snow stopped. Just like instantly stopped. The wind, the snow, everything. The figure is just out of the light's path for less than 30 seconds when the power starts up. When the rest of the lights come on, there's no one in sight, and there's a path that goes into the woods heading up towards the shack. Then the wind and snow started again. I was fucking freaking out. I grabbed my utility knife and clutched it tight. Then I saw another figure, but this time on the lift. It was my fucking manager. Finally, I was out of there. On the way back down, I saw the path diverge back down the hill right after it hit the woods. When we were just past the halfway mark on the lift, I saw him again. My manager looks at me, and I guess that my fear was insanely obvious. So he asks what's wrong. I look back down at where I had just saw the person and he was just staring up at us. His torso was sort of like almost bouncing. As if he was laughing. Either that or he was crying or coughing. My manager just looks at me. I could barely make out his white face in the squall. The next day when I show up for work, there are cop cars there and there are chairs in the snow. The son of a bitch apparently sabotaged the lift and assaulted the night manager that caught him on his way down the hill. I still see him, in the insane detail my brain gave him, just laughing. Laughing at me with his twisted smile. I worked at Walmart overnight for a while. Every single Friday night without fail, this old woman with 2 children would come in at around 10 or 11. She was obnoxiously loud as she shopped. She grabbed a bunch of different things and stuffed it all in her cart, a few times asking one of our employees to help her grab something. Every Friday night it was the same thing. Her talking voice was her yelling, and she stayed in the store sometimes until 5 a.m. I worked 10 to 7. She grabbed a cart full of stuff which seemed like it was from every section of the store. She would do this with her 2 girls, and the weirdest part wasn't even that. It was the fact that she would leave her cart somewhere and walk out with nothing. Spend hours in the store grabbing a bunch of shit, with her 2 kids, and walked out without anything every Friday. I never figured out why. It's not creepy scary, it's more creepy weird. I work night shifts at a gas station. During the weekdays it's pretty quiet, it's usually only the truckers and taxi drivers who pop by for coffee and the sandwiches we have. But one night I was talking shit with one of the cab drivers. A car drives into the lot, parks, and it sits with its floodlights on bright aim towards the glass front. Kinda weird, but maybe the guy forgot what light he got on. It happens. The guy finally enters after maybe 5 minutes of flooding the store part with light, and it's obvious he's on something. He's jittery, wide-eyed, looks disheveled, paces around before he buys a coffee, and stares intensely at me throughout the purchase. Worth mentioning, I'm a 5'2" chick with the opposite of a resting bitch face. I smile friendly to everyone. But I work alone for 8 hours in the dead of night. Eerie guy pays for his coffee without a single word. Despite my friendly chattiness, so I continue talking with the cab driver, but I still feel this guy staring at me. It was very intense and unsettling. Cab guy probably notices this and leans on the counter and slides his card over, talking a bit hushed that I should call when I get off work if that guy sticks around, because he's getting creepy vibes from him. Cab guy was right. This guy stuck around the shop for about an hour till closing, staring at me clean up. Until some truckers arrived, then he left and sat in his car, parked up against the window staring until closing time. I called cab guy and he gave me a free ride home. He later told me this weirdo had been driving behind his taxi with his lights on full power. The whole thing was just creepy. Not exactly night shift, but as a bartender I'm usually heading home around 2-4 a.m. On a slow Monday night we were about to close the restaurant when a seemingly homeless woman walked into the bar. Working in a city, we're used to vagrants making their way into the bar, so kicking her out would be easy. My manager yelled to her, "Hey, sorry, we're closing up, we won't be able to serve you. You'll have to leave." She kept walking slowly and silently toward the bar, staring straight ahead with a blank face. As she walked closer, we realized she looked unusual for a homeless woman. Her skin was gray. I've never seen a skin color like hers in my life. It wasn't dirty or old or tanned. It was a very light gray that was tight with almost no wrinkles. She also had a tattoo of 4 lines on her face. They all started at one point in the center of her chin, then continued down her neck in a ray-like pattern. She also had no shoes on. Once she reached the bar, she went to pull out a chair when my manager yelled again, "Hey, we're closing up. Also, you can't be in here without shoes on. You need to leave now." She continued to sit down, then turned her head slowly to me. Locking eyes with me, she said, "I like you." At this point, my finger was on the bar panic button. Most bars have them so they can get immediate police response. Our bouncer finally made his way over and put his hand on her shoulder to ask her to leave. The minute he touched her, she broke out into this extremely loud, high-pitched manic scream. It was like a scream out of a horror movie. What made it creepier, the whole time she was screaming she was looking at me dead in the eye without blinking. She wasn't moving, so my bouncer went to forcibly remove her from the bar. I pushed the panic button and watched my bouncer pulled away this woman as she was screaming uncontrollably, all while staring straight at me. The police came fairly quickly and took the woman away. To this day, that is still the creepiest night I've ever had at work. I used to work at a pub that was 2 miles from my house. My shift ended at about 11 one night. I stayed there for a couple of drinks, then started walking home. Now this had been an exceptional night for me tip-wise, and I had close to $400 in cash on me at the time. Between the pub and my house was exactly one street light about a quarter mile from the pub. The rest of the walk was in complete darkness. This was a dark night too. It was close to the new moon, and cloudy to boot, so it was almost pitch black. Now I live out in the boonies, so there isn't even much light pollution to help out. Not long after I leave the pub, a car slowly drives by me. About a quarter mile down the road the car slows to a stop, and it just sits there. I stop walking, and watch the car. It sits for a few minutes, then slowly drives away. A couple of minutes later the same car comes slowly driving back by me in the opposite lane. It gets by me, drives a bit down the road, and slows to a stop again. Then it does a U-turn and starts creeping back down the road towards me with the lights off. At this point I'm fucking terrified. I don't have a cell phone at the time, there's no one around to see what's going on. The car is between me and the pub, so I can't get back to the safety there. My house is still about 1.5 miles away. No way I can quickly escape there. I quickly run off the road into the woods and duck down behind a bush. I watch for the car, but it's too dark to see it with the lights off, and there's bushes and trees between me and the road. I sit there for about 10 minutes, but don't see/hear anything. I'm about to make my way back to the road when I hear car doors closing. Now I'm really panicking. It feels like my chest is about to explode. The hairs on the back of my neck is standing up. I keep imagining someone sneaking up behind me. I stay hidden and hope to God whoever it is doesn't find me. I don't know how long I stay there, but I eventually hear car doors again, then cars passing by. I give it a couple of minutes, then ease back to the road. When I see it's clear, I haul ass back to the pub and let my boss know what happened. He said then and there that I'm never to walk home at night again. Either him, his brother, or his mom will give me a lift home. When the other servers and the kitchen staff hear what happened, they all say the same thing. Never been that terrified before. I was working night shift in a gas station truck stop in Tucumcari, New Mexico, back in the mid-90s. I had another guy working with me who ran the diesel side while I worked the gas side. We had a guy come in around 1 or 2 a.m. and just looked at stuff in the aisles for a while before he left. Didn't really think twice about him. Later, about 6 a.m., when I got off, I drove home past a convenience store named All Sups. They're big in the Southwest. There had to have been at least 30 cop cars in the parking lot. There aren't even 30 cop cars in Tucumcari, so where they came from I have no idea. Come to find out that sometime during the night the convenience store I had passed by had been robbed and the clerk had been taken into the cooler, tied up, and beheaded. I found that out when I was awoken by the state police a few hours later and asked if I had seen anything suspicious during the night. That guy who came in and left was the only thing I could think of. The police took a copy of our security footage, which led them to a suspect who was later convicted for the murder. I can't even begin to tell you how hard it was to go to work the next day. We kind of assumed that the guy was going to rob us first, but didn't want to deal with two clerks, so he left and hit the other place instead. This is probably not what you were expecting, but here we go. I used to work for a relatively small security company. It was privately owned, had about 30 employees altogether. They'd get a contract with a factory, and then basically your job was to sit in that factory for 8 to 12 hours when no one was working in it. So I'd be working by myself, alone, overnight, in a completely empty factory. In my 2 years of doing that job, I never one time saw a single thing I would call supernatural. However, I did see Dennis. One night my captain calls me on my phone and tells me a new trainee will be coming in about 5 o'clock a.m. and to show him the ropes, teach him how to make rounds. You walk around the building, that's basically what making a round is, etc. So it's about 4:45 a.m. and I step outside to the parking lot to have a smoke and wait on the new guy. After about 10 minutes a car pulls up, stops, backs up and drives away. I was clearly visible, so I have no idea why he left, but the car passed by about 3 to 4 more times before finally pulling in and shutting off the engine. I can see him in the car and he's just sitting in the driver's seat staring at me. In the back seat are 2 kids probably around 6 to 8. After about 3 minutes of me wondering what the fuck is going on, he gets out of the car. Dennis is fucked up looking. He's about 4'10" and fatter than damn near anyone I have ever seen. He has a huge rash covering about 70% of his body with a white crust outlining most of it. He then speaks. Had a little trouble finding the place. His voice is high-pitched. I mean really high-pitched. I'm talking Judge Doom in the final scene of Who Framed Roger Rabbit high-pitched. Then he extends his hand to shake mine. Without thinking much, I shake it. There's 1 finger on it. 1. And the rest of the hand looks like some kind of stumpy flesh mitten. One of the kids gets out of the car, has the same rash, is also very fat, is also missing fingers. He says, "Daddy, can I get a drink?" Dennis turns around and screams in that high-pitched voice, "Get back in the damn car and don't you get out again." I'm in fucking shock. So I take the guy around the factory, show him the perimeter, tell him where emergency stuff is. About a minute into our walk I notice this guy smells like hell. I mean, he literally reeks of ball sweat and fresh diarrhea. The whole time he's asking me strange questions, like, "Do you have a crush on anyone that works here? Or can I hunt on this property?" He finally leaves after standing in the office trying to make small talk with me for about 15 minutes after the tour. On his way out he said, "We're gonna be good friends, even if you don't think so now." I went home about 2 hours later and stood in the shower for a good solid hour washing myself, trying to get the image of that guy out of my head. Called my captain and asked him to reassign me someplace else. Never had to see him again. 2 things stand out to me, though only one of them would be categorized as creepy. I was on the phone with a friend working in a different part of the city an hour or 2 before sunrise. Out of the blue he says to me, "Dude, do you see that?" I look up from the phone and I notice there was a faint but noticeable green glow in the guard shack. I look up and just above the tree line in front of me is a beautiful green sphere hanging in the sky, lighting up the whole town with this green glow. It didn't move and I wouldn't say it looked like a UFO or man-made structure. It looked like a little green sun. I asked Ask Science once on an old account of mine for an explanation but never found one. The best answer I can come up with is that some bizarre atmospheric conditions cause the green portion of the spectrum from the for me still not yet risen sun to refract off the atmosphere to create the illusion of a tiny green sun. I don't recall if it was still there when I left or not, but it hung there in the sky for at least an hour. Same location. I was outside heading back to the guard shack when I heard people talking. Faint but close enough that they had to be on the property. At various points I could hear them talk about me. One of them was worried but the other kept assuring him, "Don't worry about him, he'll never find us." That dude was absolutely right. I searched everywhere but I never found them. Everywhere I went I could hear them. The voices never seemed to get louder or softer. They weren't in the building and didn't appear to be dangerous. It sounded like a couple people just hanging out and talking with each other, so I eventually shrugged my shoulders and I let them be. If you guys liked this video, please drop a like and subscribe. Also, check out my TikTok account, Scary Time, that is linked in the description below. And as always, stay scary.